So, first of all, I would like to say thank you to Michael, because I haven't heard the very beginning, but I think that this idea of taking the agency for each person, for each community, for the prosperity of the whole land and the whole earth is what precisely we are trying to find and to reinvent on how people can rethink the role of communities and their being a citizen of a place or of a city or any settlement, and being the earth citizen, how we take our own responsibility for the prosperity of each person and the whole planet. So let me start with the introduction of our next hour. Welcome to the Voices of the World's Cities and Places, a series of sessions uniting the voices from across the continents, conducted by the Living Cities Action Research Ecosystem, a global consortium of the research organizations committed to transforming the cities into their thriving ecosystems, living in harmony with nature. And we started yesterday with the voices from Latin America. We are jumping from the southern hemisphere to the northern one. So we started in Latin America with Argentina, and then we connected to Mexico, and then we had a wonderful, inspiring conversation with North America and Voices of Land, conducted and hosted by Tim and by Kim, who is now here, and Chantal Garneau. And today, this hour, we are speaking with New Zealand, and they will be hosting this hour. And after New Zealand, we will return to Europe, and we will speak with young people from Balkan countries. Then we will connect to South Africa. And finally, we will finish with the voices from storytellers and people connected to their culture and history of the Cork city in Ireland. So now I'm passing the word to Tim, not to Tim, to Dave. And Dave will be hosting our beautiful conversation with the guests from New Zealand. So good evening, great to see you. Tim, please.
Thank you, Marina. Tēnā koe, nua mai, hara mai. Welcome to Aotearoa, New Zealand, for our little section, which is where we're going to delve into the subject of inclusion, right across the spectrum of the people that are brought onto our panel, which is I'm really excited about, because I think they each have this amazing passion and knowledge and different perspectives. And one of the things that we really wanted to do here is to share our view of the world, and the unique aspect of it, but also the similarities that we have. So over the last 10 hours of listening to people and having conversations, there have been some amazing common threads. There's been a lot of talk about young people, children, how we involve people, how we connect with nature. And so I want to first welcome and introduce the panel that I've got, starting with Rachel and Michael Perrett, who are the founders and the builders of the most amazing school on the planet. There they are, waving and waving. And I will show a little clip of the green school just so you get an idea of what it is, and then they can share their story. We've got Dinnie, Moeahu, a city councillor and a strong Māori advocate. for participation in civics and many other things. Just a wonderful speaker. Pretty strong on it, which is great. Amanda, Clinton. Now, if I get your name right, Clinton-Gohdes, is that right? You have to, yeah. Have
Close
to
enough.
unmute it.
Gohdes. Clinton-Gohdes.
Yeah, I was wondering about that one. And EJ Barrett, who I think the first time I come across EJ, she was singing jazz and hula hooping at the same time. Um, Multi-talented person who's got this enormous brain and passion for some of the people that get left behind, which is why we wanted to talk about inclusion. And she is also running for council for the first time, maybe? Yeah, I think so. So really looking forward to this. And what I'll do now is that I'll let Rachel and Michael just introduce themselves. But first, I might just share my screen and we can just run a very short clip showing you the green school. Let's see if this is going to work. Right. You can all see that? Yep. Oh, no. All right. Just stop that. Oh. Right, I seem to have lost my main screen. Michael, Rachel,
Yes, we're
would you
here.
like to give us a little bit of a rundown of your vision and what you've done in just 5 years?
Yeah, well, thank you very much, and hello to everyone across the planet. This is the first time I've ever joined a conversation in its 10th hour. I'm thrilled to hear the word thrive being used repetitively in this presentation because, if you like, our mission is to thrive with purpose. And I think it's, a beginning with education. We are starting in the very beginning, going to the source. When you mention inclusion, I think that in order to arrive at an inclusive society or community, you must first teach the values that lead to that, like empathy and relationships, responsibility, equity, community, trust, and those things taught and surrounding very young people can lead to inclusion. It won't be any surprise to those who have been on our campus to hear that we have older students uplifting younger students. We have multiple years playing together and including one another. Importantly, It's a very unique space, but we also address inclusion and equity through our 15% scholarship, through our active scholarship program. And we believe that nature is the leader, and I'll get Rachel to speak a little bit more on that, because nature, it treats us all the same. If you're lost in the forest or out on an Arctic tundra, we're all included in the same way, that experience. So it's leveling the children. The three ways that we create our well-being are a connection to nature, a connection to self, and a connection to each other. So our school is only 5 years old, but as you can see maybe from the images behind us and those that Dave shared, our beauty is everywhere. That is intentional. We have allowed beauty to lead, and it's doing a fabulous job. We have created a lot of opportunity for people and dozens of companies, and I take a practical view, if you like, a builder's view of these issues. I'm without a series of doctorates or sophisticated explanations for what we do and how that might be linked to other things. And I just use the obvious. We often educate our children in the same style of building that we imprison our criminals in. So there has to be a difference, surely, and that is what you will see on our campus. I have been in charge of enabling magnificent tradespeople, and their potential was unrealised on sites that they built prior to coming to our project, and then perhaps not utilised in projects that they went to after. So my foreman often tells me that he's never quite done anything like Green School before, and in the 5 or 6 years previous he hasn't done anything similar to our project. So what have we done? Materials is a really important starting point. Our roots are from the Balinese jungle, where bamboo is used extensively, and that helped us on our journey. So, we have wonderful glulam manufacturers in New Zealand that can make beams and trusses which are stronger and might last longer than steel, and they're actually encapsulating carbon as opposed to producing it. We wanted to arrive at a place where all of the sacrifices that Rachel and I have made personally, it's a very unique way to spend your money, and the sacrifices that the experts around us have made as well. And it's timber has helped us express that. So the piles are driven, they're not concreted in. This is New Zealand's, at this stage, tallest, at 8.5 metres, non-concrete foundation building. So it's possible, but how often might you bump into someone that tells you that it's possible? We have hydronic in-slab heating inside a nanofibre veil, where we have 10,000 layers of acoustic attenuation that can be tuned to the use, that has allowed us to have these very small wall cavities, because they're not chock-a-block full of dwangs, noggins, and and extruded glass fibre. All of those things go to landfill at the end of a building's life. And with this building, you can see we can take that jacket off the stretched membrane and we can put a new jacket on and send the old one back, because it's not laminated material, it's a single polymer. So second-hand buildings, also second-hand growing tunnels. We have the Christchurch Mall that arrived on site that we turned into our staff room, which is, a third life for that small pod. We have, biodiversity in our material science. We are thinking like a forest when we're putting these structures together. We're not just putting our hand into the same bucket and pulling out the same solutions over and over and over. And as a matter of fact, that didn't cause us any delays. We finished these buildings on time and on budget with a local contractor, and we did that intentionally so that observers couldn't dismiss what we've achieved, because we did it so that it could be replicated elsewhere. And one of the Green School skills is think in systems, and so these buildings, these environments, this infrastructure is all systems. When approached with a decision to put all the stormwater into concrete pipes or plastic drain covers and manholes all over site, we decided to just convey the water across the ground via open swales and plant native bush through those. So when you come to our little farm, 121 acres, you won't see any fences, and you won't see any cattle, but you will see things that you've never seen before, and we hope that visitors take away possibility from our site. Thank you.
This is such a lesson in itself, isn't it? So you've got pupils and parents that come to the school, and just the lessons in design and application and working with nature, not against nature. What a fantastic way to, you could be anywhere on the site and learn something. But you've also, I remember you had some of the students building things as well. So they weren't just passively waiting for a building to open up. I think, wasn't it the little toilets that around by the greenhouse? Didn't one of the students do that, or some of them?
Not a toilet block, but I did a solar array there. But there are many projects around the campus that the students have created. So I can talk a little bit to that for you, Dave. Kia ora koutou, everyone. My name's Rachel. And a little bit about the school. Mike's delved into some of the buildings and that side of it. So we in New Zealand, we call it a year 1 to 13 school, which for the Northern Hemisphere is K to 12. So we go from 5 years all the way through to 18 years on the same campus. Our mission is to create a global community of learners, making our world sustainable. So we are an international destination school, and what that means is that families from around the world come to our school or come to New Zealand for the school. They don't come because they have a job. They solely come here to join our community, and it's a mission-driven community. So at the heart of that community is 100% the school and the children and community within that school. And how we achieve our mission is through community integrated, entrepreneurial and purpose-driven learning in a very natural environment, as you've seen in that little bit of a fly through that was a little bit glitchy, but it did give you a little bit to see that our campus is very rural. We have taken an ex-dairy farm of 100 years and planted 50,000 natives on the campus. and continuing to expand on that. So we are regenerating our land first, as well as through community projects. So the school is the beating heart of our community. And I guess what we hear from families that come from around the world, and why would a family pack up from their beautiful home and community that they have in whatever country they are in, and come to our school? What are they looking for? They're looking for safety and security within a school. That's becoming, schools are becoming a really unsafe place around the world. A sense of belonging. People want to be part of a tribe. They want to be part of a community. That's what we're all thriving and striving for. So our community comes together almost in a regenerative tribal manner, in that everyone helps one another. It's very much a community raising the child, not just the family. So everyone helps and supports with transport and with different things that families need. So it's getting back to a lot of those traditional values that we used to have before, I guess, we became so materialistic and working so hard and not really being able to have enough time for our families. People want to have a healthy lifestyle. So they come to Green School to learn more about how we can live within the means of our planet, to learn from the families around them, what they are doing. So we have a lot of community interactions with breath work every week in our river. We have yoga sessions and different Pilates and sporting and things that the parents come onto campus to be involved with. We have guest speakers that come along to talk about aspects of well-being and raising your children and how to be better parents, because I think we can all strive to be better. And then we do all of that whilst being in nature as much as possible. You can't learn to live within the planet's means without first having a connection to it. So we start that by, in years 1 to 4, every Wednesday, they have Tauranga Day, where it's a nature immersion day. They spend the entire day outside of the classroom. How they start that day is first by sharing kai, food. So they gather together, they have their second breakfast to start grounding them. The next thing they do is get their hands dirty. And so they're getting their hands into the garden, into the soil. We know there's lots of research about the enzymes in soil and how that can calm us. It's a form of Prozac. It makes us happy when we're connected to the earth. So the children they're weeding, they're planting seeds, they're gathering food that they'll later on cook in the day. So they'll spend the whole day looking at sort of 4 different aspects. So one is, how do we encourage environmental stewardship? And so that is looking at their place and around them. They will have sit spots where they'll go and sit in silence for 10 minutes to be with their own thoughts and to listen and to see what's happening around them. We've had one child that had the same sit spot for 4 years. And it was neat how she could explain the different seasons of where she chose to sit, how it smells differently in those seasons, and what she can smell when the rain comes and so forth. Then we have the second aspect is cultivating the knowledge of place. So they're out in our campus, they're naming places within the campus because we're new, and they can create those deep connections through those processes. Thirdly is traditional skills and crafts. So they are putting up a bivvy, they're whittling their sticks for the bivvy, they are building a fire, they make their own kindling, They have safety procedures and practices that they write, with having a fire down by the river. So they'll gather a bucket and they'll have their area that they have to stay within for safety reasons. They're
Probably one of the only schools with a river running through it, huh?
yeah, which we don't see as a risk. We see as a magical part of our campus. So they're weaving, cutting flax, they're making teas from plants, they're making balms and so forth. And the fourth aspect is restoring that bond between humans and nature. So through all those things, they are creating that deep connection with nature and with self. So that as they grow older, in cases when they may get stressed, it's coming back to those thoughts of how did they feel on their sit spot? How can they really quickly, in a second, grab a visualization that can calm them and to release the endorphins to take that stress away? So these are some of the many things that will help them in their adult lives. And as Dave said, that then transfers to the older children who are building things around the campus. We have wetland walks, we have a skate park that's been built, swings, flying fox, garden beds, sensory garden. There's all sorts of things around the campus that the children have created themselves. Every new student plants a tree when they come. That's a part of their connection to the land as well, so that they can come back in generations to come and show their children and their grandchildren the tree that they have planted. We also, the only building that was actually on the campus when we bought the land was a hay barn. And we've converted that hay barn into a building that is called the Bridge. And the bridge is a metaphor for the joining of the parents and the family with the teachers and the students on the campus. So that's where the parents are coming in, they can work from there, they can collaborate, they can socialise, they can learn together, but that's their community space to be on campus and to be involved with what's happening. We always encourage our parents to come onto campus and to sit with the children and also help teach the children from their own experience and what they've done. A lot of people that come to the school are entrepreneurs, so they've had their own business, they've got some incredible skills and experience, and they mentor students in different projects. So we welcome all of that, and generally in schools that's not done. And I guess overall, families that come to us say that it's the big sense of belonging that they feel when they come to the school, that they've never felt that same sense before, where they feel so welcome and so nurtured by the land, by the people and the aspirations that we're teaching to, how we see the future that our children are going into being vastly different, and that they need to have these skills to be able to adapt and be resilient, to think in systems. And if they can't do those things, they're not going to thrive in a modern society, because we know that the jobs are going to be very different to what we're used to seeing. So our high school diploma that they sit for the last 2 years is approved by local universities and internationally as well as university entrants. We've had 2 years of graduates so far. We're into our third, coming up in a few months' time with our graduates. And so far we've had 100% of students passing, and about a third go to university. So don't want to take up too much time talking about the school any longer, but if there's any questions.
Yeah, that's you know, that last point is that was a bit of an unknown, really, wasn't it? To go from what you've created and the educational platform, and going from that into traditional university studies and school studies, whether they would go in there with superpowers or it would be just so foreign that
Yeah, we find that the universities are pursuing our graduates, Dave, because
Right.
they line up in a completely different enrolment line, because they have a different, unique education and qualification. And the rites of passage that they've been through means that, you know, our children don't necessarily have to be adults before they can chin up and introduce themselves and their passion. So throughout their school, they've had those rites of passage culminating in the Greenstone public presentations, where they show how they've thrived. I'd like to add a couple of things as well, because what does it all add up to? Some people have an image of a road school, a forest school, or a bush school, if you like. And then we all know the English 400-year-old model in Tweed. So we've positioned ourselves right in the middle. We take strength from both of those modalities, if you like, or curriculum, and we assemble world-class teachers on site. And, you know, the best international purposeful faculty that we could ever have dreamed of. And, you know, we have math and science every single day as well. So I just wanted to speak on that balance as well. I didn't want people to think that we had sacrificed certain things, traditional qualification, for experiential only.
Yeah, it's one thing that hit me was some of the kids saying that they actually dislike the weekends. They look forward to Monday when they can go back to school. And if I could go back, God knows how many years, I think I would have had a completely different school experience. We were talking about education earlier on in the day, and it took me time to actually understand that I had any intelligence, because I had this God into me, my school experience, and that fear of failure, and running away from school. You end up, children can't learn when they feel that they've lost time. Like if they've lost time because they've been out of school, that catch up creates so much anxiety that they don't learn very well.
Yeah,
And what you've described is a situation where children have that calmness so that they are operating.
there's some significant misunderstandings about what school's for and how it operates right across the board. You know, we sometimes have families that will join us, their child's joy comes back, and then they feel like they are ready to go back. And so everyone's approach is different. You think about our small class sizes. You know, we're 1 to 7, 1 to 14 teacher to student ratio, right? Every parent's dream. In some classes, it's far less than that. Well, the opposite of that is, you know, how do the children socialise? Whereas the school that I went to, I remember strictly being able to socialise during the 1 hour when the bell went. And during the time in the classroom told to sit down and be quiet, there wasn't any socialising. So we're facing all of these curious challenges where people talk about small class sizes as a challenge or perhaps as a weakness when we built it intentionally as a strength. So we continue to thrive through our challenges every single day, and we feel really blessed that we've been able to do something that will endure. And you know, education.
I've taken a few notes because I think they're going to come back to us as we talk to Dinnie and Amanda and EJ. Just on one of those things, it's indigeneity, and when you talked about children coming in at the start of the day and finding their little spot in the school grounds, and well, school grounds, it doesn't even sound right. on the farm, what do you call it? Then this is something that Tyson Yakaporta talked about, is that we are all Indigenous. And indigeneity is when you fit in the space and you see the space and you understand the space and, you know, understand those smells and the seasons and the changes. That's to me is the critical thing. And the other thing was about isolation. And it's having that school is so important for the socialization, particularly as isolation and loneliness have become a pandemic all around the world. Particularly technology like we use now, but technology that takes our attention away, with TikTok, all of the other sort of stuff. So, you know, trying to strike that balance between when to use technology and both contemporary technology and traditional technologies, like weaving flax, blah blah blah. You know, it's an art form. Anyway, I'm sure we're going to end up with a few questions because you've raised so many important points. That's so important to this whole idea of inclusion, even for, you know, as far as the parents coming from overseas, having quite a different experience. And, you know, having talked to a few of them as well, it's not something that they've ever come across before. But it doesn't just happen in our school environment, it happens in other environments where we have the traditional welcome. And Dinnie, are you there? Are you there, Dinnie? Come in.
Kia ora.
Oh, there he is. Hey, do you want to just give us a little pen portrait of who Dinnie Moeahu is?
Kia ora tātou te whānau nei, kua tai mai nei ki te whakatū te mano o tēnei kaupapa whakahirahira, tēnei te mahi ana kia koutou. Just a small greeting in my native Indigenous language to you all, blessings to you all. From the beginning, Dave, you've given me 2 minutes, so let's make this sharp. A little bit about me. I am one of 7 children. On my mum's side, she's from the east coast of the North Island in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and my father, his bones are from Taranaki, which is on the opposite side of the North Island in Aotearoa, New Zealand. What else would you like to know? Things about me personally. Whānau, I used to be a professional dancer. I used to do breakdancing in my spare time. I'm a modern jive national champ, was quite the artist as well. Wouldn't say I'm a poet, but I'm also a loving father of 2 young men, and I've had my beautiful wife Sonia. We've been married for over 20 years. How's that for a short check-in with me, Dave?
Yeah, that's a good start. And one of the reasons why I wanted to reach out to you was because we're coming up to civics has got a lot to do with the whole inclusion thing. And as yourself, Amanda, and hopefully EJ as well, are all in that space. You've been a really strong advocate for Māori wards. And I think you just want to touch on the challenge that we have inventing and not excluding people from the table, from decision making. We've got the local body elections coming up shortly. Trying to get people involved in local body and out voting is always been a challenge. People always look at elections as being the national elections, but more importantly, today is the local body stuff that really drives the shape of a city, which is what we're about as far as the research goes. What gives life to a city, and the ownership of of shaping a city. This is something I think needs to happen more and more at a local level. So I'll stop babbling. What are your thoughts about how to encourage inclusion?
In local government, okay. Just a short take. I think it's really important in order if we are envisioning where we can be as a country, where we can be in our respective districts. I think it's really important. Education is key. So civics education is critically important, and you can start that at high school. The fact that we aren't doing it as a nation, and people having to fumble their way through what local government is, what central government is, I think it's a disservice to our mokopuna, our grandchildren, and our children. I think one of the most important things that I've noticed is, yes, we can talk about voter apathy, where there is a low turnout, but I do remember generations before me, they saw it as a duty. They saw it as their responsibility. They
Yeah.
saw it as something that was embedded in them. And when you look at just a couple of generations, even my grandfather's generations, there was a duty of service at that time. They were navigating through walls, while also at that time, my own people were navigating walls, both foreign and domestic. But what I do know is that they see it as their own responsibility to contribute towards democracy, whatever that looks like. I think for me, myself, it's really around having the time to educate people around not only the opportunity that can present themselves, but there is a large majority, almost 50%, of respective communities that aren't being involved. And I think there's massive opportunities that are being missed in terms of representation, in terms of shaping the future of our nation. And I think there's something to be had in that. Education's always key in my view. Learning about civics, learning about voting, learning about how local government and central government works. I think you can have that as a subject at school that can take you into university studies, but it has to start with education.
Yeah, yeah. We a couple of years ago, not in this past election, but the election before, I had a to enroll and vote, and we had William Maru as kind of like fronting this thing with all the humour, and we had t-shirt giveaways and caps and all that sort of stuff, and we got a large number to enroll, but then on election day they didn't show up, which was really disappointing. And this getting past this feeling of hopelessness, like what difference does it make? If I don't show up, it doesn't change anything. Feeling disempowered. These are some of the challenges that we have, and as I really wanted to sort of focus on the inclusion thing, for us to be able to talk about what the challenges are and potential approaches to those challenges, because I'm sure it's the same in other parts of the world as well.
Mm.
And maybe there are some clues in how we manage inclusion, even through protocol. I remember talking to Waikiri Puru, who is an amazing man, Taranaki man, the champion of Te Reo Māori language. He was such an open, wise type of fellow that, this Pākehā guy from the other side of the hill, and he just made me feel so welcome. And I think in some of the conversations I've had with people, I've sort of explained just the welcoming protocol, like coming onto a marae. I think this is also at Green School, welcoming people from overseas into the Green School and going you know, stepping onto the atia, or in their case, a barn, um, is a way of bringing people in and talking to some of the parents there that said, oh, we're now welcomed as part of the iwi, as part of the family, part of the whānau. We've never experienced that before. So I don't know where I'm going with this.
Well, Dave, that's quite strange, right? It's strange to me because that's a normal custom for us
Yeah.
as a people, as Māori. Like loving hard on my children, giving them, you know, two young men, still expecting them to hug and give love and express themselves towards their parents. That's normal for me, but I don't see it normal in society. As children grow older, it should still be the same. There's a clear expectation from home. But that manaaki, that sharing, that there to me should be the norm, but it's not. And I remember when I was growing up and I was showing love and affection, hugs and kisses to my mum and dad, which was so normal. When we are at a tangihana or a funeral, how we expressed ourselves was over a number of days, sometimes a week or 2 weeks. And then my grandparents wouldn't be home for a couple of months because they're staying with the family in the time where they need them most and looking after them. That manaaki, that sharing, that unconditional love, that's the norm. So what you are not familiar with is that, and I struggle with that. I struggle that there's not enough openness to expressing our love to one another. When I have a visitor, it's protocol in my household that I was brought up in, that we feed them, that we share kai with them, that we look after them, that we protect them while they're in our company. And I can see it with Rachel and Michael, what they're doing at the Green School. They are embodying that. What I see from my beautiful friend Amanda and EJ, my friends there, they embody that. I think we need to, if you're looking for leadership in this space, we just need to be the example. We just need to be the example. And I don't want to take up too much time because you've got some amazing speakers with Amanda and EJ. All I'll say to you is this: there's nothing more powerful in this world than aroha or love. It is the most powerful thing if channeled correctly, because aroha has the ability to unite. Right? Love has the ability to unite. Love also has the ability to inspire. Love also has the ability to lead. But also, love has the ability to heal, and love has the ability to forgive. And sometimes forgiveness isn't about them moving on. It's about us moving on and moving forward. So I'll leave you with that. Kia ora, everybody.
Thank you. It just on that aroha and acceptance and bringing in that past year when somebody's and my daughter lost her husband who was Māori. It was his funeral, where we spent 3 days with him on the marae with the wider family. That was the most healing thing. It took us through a period that we felt connected and had time to grieve that we wouldn't have had if we had gone through the normal Pākehā European funeral process. So we are quite blessed to have that. And this is part of why I said inclusion the Pacific way, because there are things that we need to learn from each other, learn from different cultures. And so, yeah, that's been very powerful. Amanda.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. Tell us about Amanda.
Kia ora, it's whānau. Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Clinton-Gohdes. I am originally from Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, New Zealand's biggest city, born and raised there under the care of Moeahu, One Tree Hill, which was the maunga of my ancestors on my mother's side, who originally immigrated to New Zealand. So I've got English, Irish, and Welsh ancestry, about 6 generations on each side. And I moved to Taranaki, New Plymouth, around 8 years ago. I was drawn. Oh, actually, before I say that, so I grew up as one of a number of half siblings and step siblings and what have you, and a single mum. So we talk about having a family tree, a family creeper rather than a family tree. It's all very complicated and interconnected and sometimes inclusive and sometimes less inclusive, depending on what part of the family you're talking about. I was drawn to Taranaki 8 years ago because of the environment here, because of the vibrancy of the city, and because of the people. Ultimately, though, I think it was a little bit of magic, as some of these things sometimes go. My now husband, and I ended up here sort of by accident on holiday. We were supposed to go somewhere else entirely. Weather intervened, and we decided to come to Taranaki. And on a drive up the coast, I remember turning a corner and seeing the Moeahu, the mountain, and having a feeling like, oh, I'm home. And that's sort of the beginning of the story of us moving here. But I think there in our version of inclusivity in Taranaki, I think the Moeahu, the mountain, plays a pivotal role in that it links everyone who lives here and anchors each day in a way that you can't really escape, in that there's always a conversation about what the Moeahu is doing today. Can we see the mountain? Is there snow on him? He looks really big today? He's got like a little shrug of cloud off him. And every day the mountain looks different. And it is something that really powerfully binds all people in Taranaki, I think, whether you're from here or whether you've been drawn here by whatever circumstance. I think when we did first move here, I remember, and I'll tell the story because I think it kind of paints a picture of this idea of inclusivity and also a slight tension in it. When we moved here, we started connecting with different parts of the community, and I remember being someone like a friend of a friend of a friend recommended that we should get in touch with this guy Glenn, who probably you, Dave, and EJ and Dinnie all know. Glenn Bennett. You should get in touch with Glenn Bennett. He's just a great guy, really connected into the community. Give him a call. And we gave him a call, and I remember him kind of picking up the phone and me like, oh, okay, I'm getting this random call from people that I've never met before and never heard of. Why am I getting this phone call? And him saying, I was kind of being like, oh, so you're local here? And he goes, well, I've been living here for about 22 years, so I guess that sort of makes me almost local. And it was this really strange thing for us to hear coming from Auckland, like, you've been there 22 years and you don't feel like you're a local? But what he was talking about is in Taranaki, there is a certain level of parochial attitude that does still exist, that there's parts of our community that feel like unless you've been here generations and you were on the original settler boats, then you're not really local, you're not really from here. And yet increasingly there's such an international community and more and more residents who are moving here from around the country because they recognise that it's one of the best places to live in the world. And so I think that's an interesting evolution, I guess, of Taranaki, that more and more people have been moving here, and the idea of inclusion and a connected community is shifting over time. But I think the connected community is something that's really special about all of Taranaki, with a population of around 120,000 people. It is quite easy to have 2 degrees of separation, if that, that somehow everyone does know everyone, which means you have to be really careful about what you say.
Kind of a Kiwi thing as well, isn't it? Because I
Yeah,
always get
that's
somebody
right.
from overseas saying, "Do you happen to know such and such?" And I go, yes,
Yeah.
or I know, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's us,
Or
but
let
more
me call
so,
2 people and I'm sure I'll figure that one out, where the connection
yeah,
is. Yeah.
yeah.
So now, after about 2 years into living in Taranaki, I stood for council. One of the things that really drew me to stand for council was a passion for democracy, actually, in general, which I think requires all of us to participate, really, and a sense of seeing where we as a community needed to do a better job to be good ancestors. And I had a challenge from someone to saying, how will you be a good ancestor? And that's one of the things that drew me to stand for council. And one of the things that I've been focused on through this journey is how we get people more involved and engaged in democracy. Because as Dinnie alluded to, in local democracy in particular, which actually has more influence on our daily lives than kind of federal or national central kind of democracy, local democracy only has around the country around 40% of people voting in elections. And I think a large part of that is because traditionally our councils have not reflected the communities that they serve. They tend to be much older than the average, and much more male than the average, and much whiter than the average, essentially. And so a lot of people, and a lot richer actually too, much more likely to be homeowners or owners of multiple properties. And that means that a lot of the other parts of the community who don't reflect those demographics don't feel represented or included or engaged, and they don't feel like it's relevant to them. So I agree with Dinnie that we've got quite a big job in terms of engaging and educating people around civics, why it matters, how they can be involved, and it does start early. We've got some work to do across the country because we've actually only just started teaching New Zealand history in schools, let alone civics. I remember going through high school learning about the Treaty of Versailles about 4 times, but never actually learning about the history of New Zealand. So plenty of work left to do. That's a big, wide-ranging kind of introduction. So I'll leave it there. And if you think there's anything else I need to dive into, happy to.
Yeah. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of conversation that's going to pop up out of this because civics is such an important thing and getting people off their seat and engaged. And this is something when I first moved here about 7 years ago. And these are the same people that were volunteering for different things, which were mainly the same group of retired people and a few younger ones that had come from the colleges. And then it was the same ones. And I thought, well, how do you really get more people involved and taking ownership? And part of my clue was when I was in Hawke's Bay and commissioned to help do some asset-based community development across the different villages. And we got probably 80 to 90% of the population to come out 2 nights for 2 hours to work on what they wanted their place to be, what it was in the past, what it was in the present, and what it could be in the future. And so that really involved children, families, everybody. And the idea from the CEO of the council was that if we could collectively write a regional plan by weaving these communities together and recognizing their diversity, then there'd be more engagement and more empowerment from the community. They wouldn't say, this is the council's job to do, you know, where the recycle bins go. They would say, look, we want it set up like this, blah, 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 blah. He could see the value, but again, as you said before, the council was made up of male, pale, stale, mainly quite wealthy farmers, accountants, lawyers that were elected and deemed that they would have the say on how things worked. So they pushed against what we were doing the whole time. And in the end, I had to walk away because we were just going to end up disappointing communities. So this is one of those things that, how do we here in Namutu, New Plymouth, have got to, because the city is not too big that it's too hard to get into. There's, you know, we have access to people like yourself and the mayor and others. We can have kōrero conversations and share things. So, you know, I think we've got an opportunity, and now with the flavor of things where I think people are, I might be wrong, are starting to recognize that local government is where they can make the most impression over what's happening in central government, especially around well-being and how we shape well-being. Even our Chamber of Commerce this week had a well-being conference.
Yeah.
The ecosystem well-being. It's important.
I think too, there's
any thoughts to add to that, or should we jump to
just the thing that's resonating with me is around disenfranchisement, you know, which I think that we're, without having a much bigger conversation, around the world, we're seeing this trend of people feeling more, a group of our societies and communities feeling more and more disenfranchised. And I think that we ignore that to our peril in terms of, you know, democracies. And we need to shift the way that we do democracy, and that more of that participatory democracy or deliberative democracy, both of which are way too hard to say, is actually, it's part of the answer, right? Because so a couple of months ago, I hosted with one of our other colleagues, Bali, a kind of living room meeting. We asked a person in the community to invite 12 of their neighbours over to have a bit of a conversation about council, what it is, what it does, or rather what's on top for people in regard to council matters. And we had about 12, 13 people in someone's living room, cozied up in front of the fire with a cup of tea or a glass of wine or whatever, and just said, hey, what's on top for you in relation to council? And people had various issues, most of which were pretty contentious. And we ended up just having this really open conversation. We did a bit of myth busting, but mostly it was people hearing each other's views, you know? And so on an issue like cycleways, which is one of the real hot topics here at the moment, someone said, you know, it's ridiculous and I can't believe the council have done this and what a stupid decision to have made. And someone else, we didn't have to say anything, someone else in that room said to them, oh, actually, I'm really glad that they did it because I cycle and I found it really unsafe in the past, and now I feel much safer because they put in the cycleway. And that stimulated a conversation, and just so having more forums like that where we can hear each other, we can problem solve, we can find compromises or alternative solutions. It has to be the way forward rather than increasingly kind of polarized conversations where you're just shouting across each other. But I can understand sometimes for people who have been in these roles a long time and are used to doing consultation in a tick box kind of way, the work that you were doing is pretty out the gate, pretty confronting, and requires them to give up a certain level of control, which is uncomfortable if you've been used to having it, right?
Yeah. For us, when we were going through these communities, the way we did it was we reached out to people that were central in the communities, local school teachers, shopkeeper, whatnot, and explained that we were just facilitators. Because the resistance was that, oh, who are these people coming in to tell us how we should live and how our town should be, or our city. And so that was the first bit, getting them on side. But, you know, you are an incredible communicator, and that's been one of the standout things about your time on council, which has been a while now.
Yeah,
So
6 years.
6 years for somebody who's come from Auckland. Wow. Really been
Yeah, right.
taking it on board and unknown. But for people listening, Amanda, after every meeting gives a really detailed account of everything that's been discussed. And that's really unusual, because often these things are only heard secondhand and they get distorted. And that's where all of the tension comes from, are these misunderstandings without that clarity and suspicion about bloody council. So
Yeah, that's right.
a really important thing. EJ, we shouldn't leave you hanging out too long, because I think we will jump into your passion and focus, and that will, I think, bring everything more closer in alignment, close the circle, so to speak. So, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Kia ora, everybody. My name is EJ Perrett. I'm also in Ngā Motu in New Plymouth with Dave and Amanda and Dinnie and our wonderful friends from the Green School. In order to understand the space that I speak of and the perspective that I bring to this space, it's probably important for me to share a little bit of history about myself. So I have a connective tissue disorder. So I became very disabled for a period of time because I could not get access to healthcare. So the condition that I have is called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It is a collagen production disorder, which means that I produce too much of one kind of collagen and not enough of another. So collagen is bear with me, I promise this is relevant. Collagen is the most abundant building block in the human body. And so what that means, if the way that I build collagen is out of kilter, is that every system in my body has the potential to go out of whack if it's not cared for in the right way. And so understanding systems and how different systems interact with each other is a necessary part of how I manage my health. And that gives me a really solid grounding to understand how different systems in society then interact with each other, because I have this practice of managing that in my everyday life. When I was really, really struggling with my health about 5 years ago, I did not have access to healthcare. I didn't yet have a diagnosis. I didn't understand that I was sick. And so because the public health system here does not cater for the condition that I have, my health continued to decline. And while I was struggling to get answers, I was left at home as a solo parent trying to raise 3 children on my own, and sitting in my home, lying in my bed, unable to participate in my own life, wondering how I got to this space, because we're told this story about how if you get sick, your community is going to look after you, society is going to look after you. But that was not what happened for me. Society didn't turn up, my community didn't turn up. And so I began wondering why. why is nobody turning up? Why is it so difficult for people to turn up? Because I knew there were people in my life that wanted to support me, but it just became so difficult to be able to get to me, to access to me, to get that support into my home. And so it was from that space that I started looking into the disability rights movement and urbanism as a system of design. And the disability rights movement has done so much work in trying to fight for access to urban spaces, to society, so that everybody can participate in society. And there's still so much work to do. And in conjunction with the urbanism movement, I think there's a real powerhouse there of collective ideologies to be able to weave together systems that enable everybody to participate in society by building city structures that create systems that weave together, that work together, so that everybody can get access to what they need, so that communities are not isolated, so that humans are not isolated, so that children and their caregivers are not isolated. And everybody's looking at me really intensely. Yeah, so that's where I speak from. That's how I ended up here, and that's what drives me to engage in politics and local politics as well, because like Amanda mentioned, local democracy is where so much decision making is made around the way that our cities are designed, around the way that our communities are able to engage with each other. So that's what brings me here. You've gone quiet, David. I think you've muted yourself.
I have muted myself. I'm mutated.
Same genetic mutation.
Yeah, we're all divergent, aren't we? Yeah, we are all individuals.
Yes, we're all individuals.
Go.
When I was invited to this space, I was reading through the kaupapa, and I read about the mission statement for this space, and the question that I love that was in this document that you sent me was, how can we listen deeply to our cities, and through this listening unlock new capacities for healing, belonging, and transformation? And so when I'm thinking about this question, if we regard the city as an ecosystem, I think about systems of dis-ease. And so for example, if we consider when I'm spending time with somebody who is experiencing dis-ease or disability and isolation, it's not always appropriate to go in with solutions ready to go. It takes a moment to sit back and just spend time in these spaces and spend time with the person and listen and hear stories and share stories and spend that moment of understanding. And I think the same can be said for our cities as living beings, that it's not always appropriate for us to just bust in with solutions ready to go. It's important for us to spend time with the people and listen to the stories, and to build these relationships and these conduits of experience. And then the solutions will come forth, because communities already know what they need. Communities have the solution. And I think that a big part of what council can do is simply enable communities to be able to tell us their own stories and find the solutions themselves.
Yeah. When I discovered home for an old school institution, people were just being disempowered by so-called helpers, just stepping in thinking, you want to push down a corridor. And next minute, woof, they go, it's
Yes.
time, you must be tired, it's time for bed, off you go. In my time there, I just caused a revolution just by doing things differently, to the point that one of the staff used to cry every time I walked in the door, because I upset her sheltered workshop, because no one wanted to go there anymore. they finally had the bravery to say, we hate it, we hate it. Anyway, that's such a good offering, and it's I'm glad you read that document, because this is going to be an ongoing thing. Tonight or today has been first connections for a lot of people, but what we want to do is keep on growing and sharing these connections. And Marina and I and a few others have been discussing about how we build a space where that might happen. But I think maybe now we can kind of like open it up to people, because we've covered quite a few things. There might be a few questions. Anybody? Raise hands. Raise hands. Just to say that this is also recorded, and so each of the sections around the world are going to be shared, because there's a lot of people that are asleep or can't make it here, and so the school is a little bit bigger than the one that we've got here with us. Looks like Michael's going to say something. No? Yes? No?
I think the letter wanted to jump in, but it seems to me that she just shut her video. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for this absolutely fantastic conversation, and it's so great that there is such a passion in that project that all of you were doing, and maybe it would be great if you could just that's to all our panelists, if you could just share more about your sense of the place where you live and work. And I understand that for some people that's the native land, for some people that's their deliberate decision to settle there. So my question is, what made you this feeling home? And if you would speak about the place as a living ecosystem, or maybe even as a living being, what would it be, and who would it be? So how you perceive this, and how could you share this with people who haven't been at your places, at your land ever? So what is it to be connected to this land and to the soul of this land?
If we look at the Moanga, as Amanda was talking about, I have the same experience when I drive down the road towards my place. I see it directly in front of me, and it is just an amazing sight, because it reminds me how small we are compared to nature. This is a volcano that's rebuilt itself every 300 or so years. So, you know, its influence on our lives can be quite dramatic. But also looking after it, if you see it from above, you'll see a complete circle of forest around it, because there was a decision made a long time ago that all the land from the peak of the volcano to, I think, 12 miles or 15 miles should not be cut down. The forest should not be cut down. So it's this kind of like circle of forest. Like there's lessons in that. For me, the amount, the connection to the ocean, to the mountain, to the forest, it is all so available. When I was working with a guy from Berlin, he just couldn't believe that I could walk out the door and into a rainforest. And it was pretty much in the middle of the city. Our city park is just incredible. So we're blessed to have this strong connection to nature and the environment. And that's something that Michael and Rachel have really taken care of, and not just looked after the land, but rejuvenated the land, restored the land, because this is a dairy farming area, and traditionally a lot of nitrates and stuff get into our waterways, which kill our waterways. So we're meant to be a transition region, transitioning from oil and gas and dairy into other technologies and other ways of living. So I think for me, we have got so much opportunity and every reason to embrace every potential that we have. It's critical, especially for future generations. That's my blah, blah, blah.
Can I do a blah, blah, blah also?
Yeah, you do. I could see you were going to do a blah.
I totally agree with what you've said, Dave, around the soul of this region really is the maunga, the mountain, and it centers us in what I think of often is that actually the foot of the mountain travels right out into the sea, right? So even though sometimes you can think, oh, the mountain's up over there and see it from a distance, actually the foot of the mountain is, we're on it. And so you can never be disconnected from that. And the fact that we can, you can be hiking on the mountain in the morning and be swimming in the sea in the afternoon, or even by midday if you really want to be, is pretty incredible and quite unique. And, you know, from a council perspective, a lot of the leaders of the city have worked to preserve that and enhance that over time. So I love a good stat that around the country we've got the most green cover of any urban environment. So it's edging up towards 10% of our urban environment is covered in native biodiversity. And so we have the incredible a very large park in the middle of town, Pukakura Park, but we also have a lot of green neighbourhood spaces, a lot of walkways that connect different neighbourhoods that travel up our streams and our rivers. And there are more than 200 rivers that flow, or streams that flow from the mountain, the top of the mountain, down through all of our towns around Taranaki. So it is very interconnected, although you're right that there's a lot of strain on those waterways from dairy and agriculture. And we also have this really interesting, the vibrancy of our district has been fed by a very lucrative oil and gas industry. And at the same time, so many in our community have such a deep love of nature. And so it's a really interesting tension. And I think as our community transitions away from the oil and gas industry and our dairy industry diversifies, there's some really amazing opportunities there. I think the last point that I want to make, and it certainly isn't the last point, but just the connectedness with tangata whenua, with Māori in Taranaki is very live and visible and accessible in my experience. I've had the incredible experience of being really welcomed and adopted really by leaders at Pariaka, which is a seat of passive resistance globally, and that sense of inclusion and love and manaakitanga is really incredible. And I think that's special for New Zealand overall, but I think particularly for Taranaki because of that history of passive resistance and partnership, even through so many controversial and tense, traumatic experiences. So I'll leave it there. I'm sure that Dinnie's probably got some more to add on that particular part of the corridor, but I'll stop.
Ka pai. Beautiful
Yeah,
kōrero.
I think that
I'm-
too.
I might as well add a few. I'm going to go for more of a holistic approach, whānau, everybody on here. Imagine being able to trace your lineage back 10 to 14 plus generations. So each time you wake up and you walk this earth, you know your sense of belonging is rooted in whakapapa or your lineage. Imagine being able to be part of an ecosystem where you are from the land. You're not taking from the land, but you are of and from the land. Imagine having your own customs, way of living, social standings, social circles, your own way of being for generations. Imagine also seeing yourself reflected in the land that you walk, in the rivers that you swim in the oceans that you navigate over. The depth of connection that you have, I think, speaks for any Indigenous people from across the world. There is a depth of that connection that is hard to explain. It's spiritual. It enhances your way of living. And then your ability to share that unconditionally with visitors. And I think with everything that's going on across the world, that's my constant reminder that keeps me grounded, is as part of our own indigeneity, is whakapapa, our lineage that's embedded in there, our bones that is scattered throughout this country, our stories that are often told through oratory, no other way, or through carvings or through songs, and that's how we speak to it. So from an Indigenous perspective, it's deep. Our language is so poetic. Our depth of meanings behind words. There are tiers of depth that connect all of us, and it's universal. It's a language that can speak to all of us and to our best intentions. So imagine that. Imagine how hopeful life can be when you imagine that. Imagine that you have laid your whāraki, as we call it, your mat. You are now laying your bones. You are laying your family tree. You are laying your futures down on a piece of whenua, a piece of earth for the future. And regardless of what happens in my life, I know that where I lay and when my time has come, where I just become a speck of dust, I know where I'm laying is deeply entrenched with the generations who I now stand on their shoulders to cast a vision of hope for my tamariki, for my children, and for my future grandchildren. But it's more to me than just a place. It's deeper. And I think if you're from Taranaki, or if you've decided to nest here in Taranaki, you understand that you're also part of that depth of connection. It's what makes us special. And yes, I am patriotic and I am staunch, but we do live in the best small little village, town, city in the whole wide world. And we will welcome you all with a red carpet. Kia ora.
Kia ora. That segues nicely into something we haven't kind of touched on. Well, we have touched on it a little bit. Is the green school, and when you have people coming in from overseas, and I've spent a lot of time at Manifold, which is a sort of a startup hot seat place in town here, where quite a few of your parents have made use of. And so we have the wealth and the richness of our cultures here and our connection here. And then we have the spices that come in, we import in from overseas that bring other opportunities for us to learn from and to get to know and share and see into other ways of being and other life experiences. So, you know, in a way, Green School has contributed enormously to that in creating, an intention to come here to look after children for their children for their education, but it adds another layer to it. Do you know what I mean? Am I making my point?
Absolutely, Dave. Yeah, we could have built the school anywhere in our beautiful country because we are spoilt for choice here in New Zealand. But there's something uniquely special about our mountain and our ocean and our people. Our Indigenous culture is magnificent. It's beautiful. If we can all learn from all Indigenous cultures and get back to that regeneration of people and place, then we're going to have a much better planet. Thank you to your wonderful words, Dinnie. They were beautiful as always. And Amanda and EJ, we do live in the most beautiful place in the world. And we love to bring people here and share our manaakitanga, to show them our culture and how we like to live, to feed them kai, to sing together, to do kapahaka together, and people go back to their countries with a better knowledge of our country and how they can look to also embrace their Indigenous cultures as well, because I think it's something, although we can do better here in New Zealand, I think we're doing quite well relatively worldwide. It would be nice if other countries could embrace their cultures as much as what New Zealand has, and the interconnectedness that we all have as people, as flora and fauna, the planet. And listening to Michael that was speaking just before we came on, one of the things I took from his talk is we often talk about living within our means, but it's not about living within our means. It's about living within the planet's, what the planet can offer us, right? And so he was talking to that third of an acre that we need to use, and we're currently, some countries are using 20 acres per person, and it's too much, and we need to stop being so greedy, and we need to get back to some basics. So thank you very much for listening to us, and I hope we can all work together to make it a better planet.
Yeah, I think all of this, Marina did an incredible job with the book that she recently published. This information on board and has made it accessible to other people, and this conversation and the other conversations before it and what we will have over the next year will go into the next edition as well. So there'll be a lot of information sharing, which is going to be powerful, but it's relationship building. It's all relationships, isn't it, really? And understanding. Then we can get rid of all of this nasty stuff that's going on. Carl, just trying to think of his last name. Amanda, you'll remind me. Works at WIT. Carl Freeman.
Carl Freeman.
Freeman, yes. When I first came here, and in one of the workshops I went to, Carl was there talking about his quarter-acre garden that he was growing vegetables in and feeding families, and he'd worked out a sort of an area that he could deliver food boxes to, and it was just kind of touched on what you're saying, Rachel, about if we get it right, a small area of land can actually feed a lot of people. And we don't have to always go to this industrial model. And that's what you do at the green school with the big greenhouse. The kids are learning how to grow their own food. Some of these food programs where we just feed kids milk and wheat bix in the morning, we're actually taking away their ability to look after themselves or understand food and nutrition and plants. So I just don't know why we don't implement these things in other schools. But you're breaking ground on all of this. We just got to find a way. Right? Anybody? EJ.
Yeah, please.
I just wanted to also bring to the conversation that I'm sure Dinnie can speak much better to this than what I can, but the kura kaupapa as an education model is also an incredibly valuable education model that we have on this island, in this country. And it's, so kura kaupapa is a Māori worldview school. And it has the highest pass rate in the country, from what I understand. Is that correct?
Yes. Aroha mai.
Yeah. So it's and this is just another way that as a community we're able to find diverse ways of existing and educating and connecting.
Yeah, this is another one of those things about dispelling myths as well. That of doing some community. The English name for that region is Poverty Bay. So it was perceived by Captain Cook as being an area that was very poor and lacking the ability to sustain his sailors. But working in that area with people, they are probably the most resilient people I've ever come across, because they are so well connected to their land and had a connection for such a long period of time that I kind of think that if things turn to shit, they're the ones that are going to survive because they haven't been so urbanized or married to systems that they're dependent on. They know how to hunt, fish, grow, and do things for themselves. And I guess we have that ability here as well. Managed to keep going if the FPOS machine wasn't working or the supermarket closed down for more than 2 weeks.
Yeah, on that note of urbanization and its impacts on people in rural spaces, I acknowledge that we're in a kaupapa right now in a event that's specifically about cities, but I think it's really important for us to also take a moment to recognize that urbanization as a theory has not yet reconciled with its own tendency to repeat the patterns of extractive empire. And so what I mean by that is that, like, if we look at how colonization as an empire worked, then it was Britain that sent its people out to go and find other spaces around the world to extract wealth from, to extract resources from. And cities have a tendency to do that to the regions and to do that to the rural spaces around it, to extract resources and extract wealth from the rural spaces that surround it, to be able to power cities with resources, with humans, with labor. And we have a tendency to forget to adequately resource smaller rural communities. And I don't yet have a solution for this, but I think if we're going to figure out how to create thriving ecosystems of cities, then we also have to recognize that cities do not exist in isolation. They exist in relationship to the smaller communities around them.
Yeah, good point. And I think probably later in the year we will. I think we might have touched on it, Marina, about and Rachel and Michael know who I'm going to talk about. James Burlish at Stanford and Regen Villages, and the work he's done and others have done to design villages that are self-contained and self-sustaining for food, water, and energy. So, you know, there are models that we can employ if we can find a way. And where we are better at land use and how we intensify the urban spaces. This was part of the Te Hiniki design that I did for Christchurch that got rejected because it was too Polynesian, where we looked at land use and how people connected with each other. One of those tricks was to not have straight lines for the buildings because we wanted people to literally bump into each other and have conversations rather than avoid eye contact. So there are a number of things that we can do that we can make things more efficient, and yeah, but it's breaking through into the industry as well, as again Michael and Rachel have done with the design of those buildings. Again, your investment and your belief meant, you know, it's always expensive to be the first people to move and to break the system and create new thinking. After that, hopefully it becomes more affordable as we start to mimic and build on your designs. So yeah, I reckon it could be quite an exciting place to live, Taranaki. If we can weave a little bit more together, eh? And storytelling.
Definitely, that's fantastic. And you know, coming to the end of our discussion, let me ask maybe all of you to dream and to imagine if you could share your experience and your knowledge and your understanding of the better future. What would Taranaki could tell to the whole world, to other cities which are listening to you and might maybe learn from your region? So what might be the best impact, the best gift which your region and the whole New Zealand maybe might give, support, bring to the whole world, to other cities? And where to start maybe, from your own experience? What could be done? What could be gifted to the people on other continents from your personally and from Taranaki region?
Thank you very much.
Mike.
I think that we need to look to nature for more solutions. Nature is the finest system and it endures. We've recently learned how quickly the oceans, how much quicker than we first thought the oceans can repair themselves. And our property is proof that once you stop the extraction of resources and beauties, it resets very, very quickly. We're talking about quite a stark property where we started to notice the birds coming back. Also, to be a little bit engage in folly when we're designing places. So we plant trees in the middle of the path just because it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But it gives people in the future somewhere to sit when they approach each other. So a longer term thinking is also available through nature. because we're planting native kauri, we're planting tōtara, and these trees live for hundreds of years. And I think the message would be how quickly the transformation, the regeneration, how quickly it happens. And yeah, we've proven with the green cover, the urban landscape we have here in Taranaki, that nature can be part of the urban environment, it can complement it. And so, yeah, it would be that through regeneration, the transformation is much quicker than perhaps even the engineers would imagine.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's
Yeah, right.
in our cities, we're over-sterilising everything. We try to have different, we do have different pathways and materials on our paths, and that's very deliberate to make the children actually engage in a bit of mindfulness as they travel along the different paths, because if they don't connect themselves to where they are, then they might slip over or something. So yeah, the point of that is just to keep connecting them back to where they are. And by over-sterilising everything, we have just taken away body movement, and our health has suffered as a result of that. We're not really in our heads, we're outside of our bodies when we're walking and moving a lot of the time, because we're so busy. We're thinking about the next meeting or appointment or whatever it may be that we have on. So it's just bringing ourselves back to our body and our spirit, and really connecting to ourselves and everyone around us.
Thanks to go last.
The thing that I think that the rest of the world could learn from this space has been touched on briefly a little bit already. I think it might have been Amanda that said that, like, you can't go through the day here without referring to the mountain, to Taranaki Maunga. And I think that's a really beautiful part of the culture that we have in this area. I grew up in a little town down the coast, and our community events in this little town, we would gather together for community sports day, and the teams were based on what side of the road you lived on, whether you were on the mountain side or the ocean side. And when I give directions to people, I refer to, like, what side of the mountain I'm going to be on, and I refer to whether when I'm thinking about where I exist in space and in this area, I think about where I am in relation to the mountain and the ocean, because I'm always between them. And I think that creates a really beautiful culture, because we're constantly reminded that we exist in relation to the natural spaces around us. And I think that reminder is really helpful for understanding that we don't necessarily exist on top of this earth, but with it.
Dinnie, Amanda?
I'll get in before Dinnie, because I'm sure he's going to say something really profound, and then I'll feel awkward about speaking afterwards. I think what EJ said, absolutely. I think that's a really beautiful thing that other places around the world could learn from and connect to. I think too, what my hope is going forward is that Taranaki's story can be one of real regeneration, and that our economy has been based on two of the most extractive economies that there are, in terms of oil and gas and dairy, and the load that both of those things put on our planet. And yet I think we also can do some incredible regeneration here, with the great connectivity of our community, of the talent of our community, and the diversity of our community. If we can bring all of those talents together, to work to not just restore the damage done, but to regenerate and help our environment to flourish in the way that Michael and Rachel described, that actually our planet is so much more resilient than sometimes we give it credit for. And if we can just get out of the way or give a little helping hand, that a region like Taranaki that has been based on these incredibly extractive industries could still and can still be this thriving, regenerated, beautiful natural space with a connected community, incredible well-being, and people that take care of each other as well as the environment, and vice versa.
Kia ora. I think what you can take away from me is a te ao Māori perspective, an Indigenous perspective of my culture. I've always felt that there's been these frictions throughout my own lifetime, and it's been very combative. I feel like this capitalistic, westernized worldview clashes with my holistic Indigenous worldview. I feel like if people would treat our water, our land, our oceans, our rivers, like a taonga, like a precious gift instead of a commodity, their approach to utilizing that would be completely different. They wouldn't let our rivers and our waterways be polluted. They'll think differently. They wouldn't have our land being, ripped apart for minerals. They'll think differently. They'll think about regeneration. I've always felt like our perspective of the world was that we belong to the land, to each other. We are interconnected, and our futures depend on it. Our role is as kaitiaki, as guardians, to nurture those relationships, not just with each other as people, but especially with our environment. It's Taranaki is the birthplace of our country's land wars. The first shots were fired here in Taranaki that culminated in the devastation and destruction of my people. It was also the birthplace of peaceful resistance. It inspired world leaders of peace, including the Dalai Lama, including Martin Luther King Jr., and many others who travelled to Aotearoa, New Zealand, who travelled to Parihaka to bear witness to real-life history at play. And so when I think about what can the rest of the world learn, is our perspective and how we choose to lead, and how we choose to, despite everything that has happened to us historically, that we are still here. We are not going anywhere. And there is a solution in a te ao Māori perspective that will unite us. Kia ora.
Okay. We're just about at the end, which is perfect timing. I guess what I want to finish with is the belief that one person can make a big change, and a town can cause change as well. You don't have to be a big city. Aotearoa, New Zealand, we had an influence on the working day, voting for women, addressing apartheid. We're a little country that had, in our history, impact on on the way the world worked. So I think to feel that you are too small to have impact is something that the big guys are trying to sell you. Soul of the City isn't just about big cities. It's about places that we live in. It's little towns. It's cities as small as our own. Here we've got the opportunity to influence change that could inspire others. So just self-belief and leverage your relationships and connections, nurture active listening, humility, homo humilis, bring on homo humilis, a humble human. That's where we need to go. Anyway, thank you, Marina, for being the technical host and the inspiration behind all of this. So, haere. And thank you for you guys on the panel. I know it was particularly tricky this time of year because you're so busy with the elections. Every hour of the day is important. So good luck. You got my vote. Got my papers here.
Thank you.
Kia ora. Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, for your contribution. It was absolutely amazing. And I hope see you soon. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I suggest us to have a couple of minutes. I will pause the recording. I think I'd stop the recording. And we will continue at the top of the hour. Dave, thank you so much for such a wonderful panel and brilliant guests.